The sky above the frozen planet was dark. No sun, no light. Only snow, only cold. Captain Rehan opened his eyes. His head was bleeding, and his spacesuit was cracked near the shoulder. He had crash-landed. His ship, the Orion Scout 7, was broken in half. He sat up slowly. His breath made white mist in the freezing air. The temperature inside the wreck was dropping fast. The heater system was damaged. "I have to find shelter," he whispered. Outside, the wind screamed like a ghost. The ice planet was deadly. No one could survive here for long. Rehan checked his wrist scanner. Oxygen, low, heat, 20%. Help, no signal. He was alone, or maybe not. From deep inside the wreckage, a strange sound echoed, like breathing, soft, uneven. Not mechanical. Rehan pulled out his emergency light and stepped carefully through the broken hallway. Metal sparked. Ice covered the walls. Then he saw her. Lying next to the shattered engine was a girl, not human. Her skin was pale blue, her hair silver white, long and frozen. She wore no suit, only a thin cloak. Her body shivered, her eyes were closed. But she was breathing. Rehan knelt beside her. "Is she alive?" he asked himself. He touched her wrist. Faint pulse, very weak. Suddenly, her eyes opened. Bright, glowing silver eyes, full of fear and pain. Her lips trembled. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Will you share your warmth with me, human?" Rehan froze. She wasn't human, she was alien. Unknown species, possibly dangerous. But she was cold, shivering, dying. He looked at his heater module. Only one heat pad left. Enough to warm one person for 3 hours. 3 hours of life. For either her or him. He stared at her. She looked so fragile, so afraid, and then something happened. Her eyes. There was something in them. Not fear. Not hate. Something human. Trust. Rehan didn't think twice. He pulled out the heat pad and pressed it against her chest. Then he wrapped his arms around her, carefully. Sharing his own body heat, she gasped as warmth entered her frozen skin. Her hands, icy like glass, touched his chest. She looked at him, not as an alien, but as a lifeline. "Why?" she asked, voice cracking. "Why are you helping me?" Rehan answered quietly. "Because you asked." Silence fell between them. Only the wind howled outside, but inside there was a heartbeat. 2 lives. 1 moment. Time passed. The heater's light blinked slowly. 2 hours left. Rehan's hands were numb now. But he didn't pull away. She whispered again. "My name is Ilara." Rehan nodded. "I'm Rehan." She closed her eyes. "Your warmth. It feels strange, like light in the dark." Rehan smiled faintly. "It's just heat." She shook her head. "No, it's more." Outside, the storm grew louder. The planet wanted them to die. But inside this broken ship, something new was born, a connection between 2 lost souls. He held her closer. Her breathing was slower now, stronger. She was getting better, but Rehan, he was getting colder. His vision blurred for a second. His fingers felt stiff. Heater level, 10%. Ilara opened her eyes again and looked at him. This time with concern. "You're freezing," she whispered. Rehan didn't answer. He was busy thinking. Who was she? Why was she here? Was this planet her prison or her home? And what would happen when help arrived, if it ever did? The silence between them wasn't empty. It was heavy, full of questions, full of things that didn't need words. Ilara slowly reached out and placed her hand on his face, warm now. "Alive. You gave me life," she said softly. "I won't forget." Rehan looked into her eyes again. They weren't just glowing now. They were watching him, deeply. And in that moment, he realized something. She wasn't just surviving. She was remembering him and maybe trusting him. But the heater blinked. Again, 5% left. And outside, something moved in the snow. A shadow, watching them. Asterisk. The night never ended on this planet. Captain Rehan sat near the broken wall of the wrecked ship. Arms still wrapped around Ilara, her body had stopped shaking. She was stable now, but the warmth in his own body was fading, piece by piece. The heater blinked. 2% left. He took a deep breath. His lungs felt heavy. Cold air was everywhere now, sliding under his suit, biting his skin. Alara opened her eyes again. They were softer. This time, no longer just glowing silver, now they looked curious. She gently pulled away from him and sat up, shivering slightly. You're dying, she said. Not a question, a fact. Rehan gave a weak smile. Not yet. She frowned. Her fingers brushed his cheek, now pale and stiff. You gave me all your heat? Why? Rehan looked away, staring into the flickering lights of the broken ship. Because you needed it more. There was silence, then Alara whispered, No human has ever helped my kind. They fear us or hate us, but you... She paused. You... Don't even know who I am. Rehan raised an eyebrow. So tell me, Alara looked down. Her voice became distant, cold like the wind outside. I'm not just a girl, Rehan. I was a weapon once. My people, the Solarians, were created for war. But when the war ended, the universe forgot us. Some were destroyed. Others were thrown onto cold planets like this one, hidden, buried. Rehan listened quietly. Her words were slow, but heavy. You were left here to die, he said softly. Alara nodded, double quote. Yes, I escaped the holding chambers under the ice. I found your ship by chance. I was ready to die beside it. She looked at him. Until you gave me warmth. Before Rehan could respond, a sudden sound echoed outside. Metal. Dragging across snow, Alara's eyes widened. Something is out there. Rehan stood slowly, grabbing his old plasma cutter. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. Stay inside, he whispered. He moved to the edge of the broken hull and peeked outside. The snow was falling again, thick and silent. But something was out there, a figure. Tall, slow, watching. It didn't walk. It floated just above the ground. Elar came beside him, eyes sharp now. It's a seeker. A drone from the prison labs. It hunts escapees like me. Rehan tensed. Is it armed? She nodded. Lethal beams? No mercy. The drone floated closer. It had a red eye at the center. It scanned the wreckage slowly. Humming, Rehan grabbed a mirror shard from the floor and held it outside. Catching the drone's scanned beam, the drone paused. Then beeped. Solarian presence detected. It charged. Rehan didn't hesitate. He grabbed Alara and pushed her to the floor, just as a white-hot beam burned through the wall behind them. Boom. The ship shook. Sparks fell. We have to move, Rehan shouted, but Alara didn't move. Her eyes were glowing again. Brighter than before. She stood up and walked toward the hole in the wall. Alara, no! But she raised her hand. The air shimmered around her. Then silence. Outside, the drone froze midair. Its red eye blinked. Then, crack. It dropped to the snow with a lifeless thud. Rehan stared in shock. Alara collapsed. He rushed to her. What did you do? She coughed. Her skin pale again. I reached its core, spoke to its memory, then ended it. Rehan looked out at the broken machine. You have powers. She nodded slowly. It's what made us weapons. But every time I use it, I lose a part of myself. Rehan picked her up and laid her back near the last working light. He pulled the heater pad closer. The meter read 1%. He looked at her, weak, tired, but alive. Then he looked at the drone outside and made a choice. He stood up. There must be a power cell inside the drone. If I get it, we can recharge this heater. Alara reached for his hand weakly. It's risky, he smiled. So was helping you. She didn't stop him. Rehan stepped out into the snow. The cold hit him like a wall, but this time he wasn't just surviving, he was fighting for someone. The wind was sharper now. It howled like a warning. Captain Rehan pushed through the snow, footsteps heavy, breath turning into white clouds. The drone's body lay half buried. It looked dead, but Rehan moved carefully. Machines on this planet didn't always stay dead. He knelt beside it, hands numb. The metal was cold, colder than ice. He found a panel near its side and forced it open. Inside, blue light flickered. A small power cell, glowing, humming, still active. Got you. Rehan whispered. He pulled it free, slipped it into his pouch, and turned to head back. But something stopped him. A shape. In the snow dot just behind the drone's crash point, half covered under frost, was a steel hatch. Rehan stepped closer. Brushed the snow aside. It was a door. Old, rusted, but not destroyed. It had the same symbol. He saw on Alara's cloak, a spiral with a broken line through it. His hand hovered above it. Then he heard her voice in his head, not a memory, but recent, real. Some were thrown onto cold planets, hidden, buried. Rehan looked back toward the wrecked ship. He should have returned. Ilara was weak, but his instincts, the same ones that kept him alive in wars and wild galaxies, told him this door mattered. He opened it. The hatch creaked. Cold air rushed out, but it wasn't fresh air. It was still air. Air that had not moved for years. He climbed down slowly, boots echoing on metal steps. The tunnel below was dark. His helmet light flicked on. And then he saw it, rows and rows of cryopods, maybe 20, maybe more. All frosted over. Inside them, bodies, not human. All like ELAR, defrozen, silent, trapped. Some had broken glass. Others had red cracks on their skin, signs of failed sleep. Failed survival. Rehan stepped closer to one of the pods. A label blinked faintly. SYLX18 status, dormant. Then another. SYLX03, status, deceased. He walked slowly, reading each one. But then he found something different, a file drive attached to the wall. Plugged into the master controls. He hesitated. Then pulled it out. Back in the ship, Ilara sat up slowly. Her skin was pale, but her eyes were alert. She felt something shift, like someone had touched her past. She stood shakily and stepped outside. Snow fell gently now. She saw Rehan, returning, carrying the power cell. And something else. A drive. She froze. Where did you find that? She asked. Rehan looked serious. There's a bunker. Just past the drone. It's full of cryopods. Your people... Ilara's breath caught. No, they were supposed to be gone. Rehan showed her the drive. This has the truth, doesn't it? She didn't speak. Inside, Rehan connected the drive to his suit's mini interface. A video flickered on. A human general appeared, gray uniform. Cold eyes. Project SYL. Containment report. His voice echoed, the Silurians are powerful, too unstable, too emotional. Their empathy is their weakness and their weapon. We cannot kill them all. Some will be stored on remote worlds under false designations, ice planets, silent zones. No rescue, no signals, just silence, forever. Rehan's jaw tightened. He looked at Ilara. They didn't just abandon your people. They erased them. Ilara's eyes filled with tears, but they didn't fall. Her voice was soft. Now you? Understand why I didn't want to live? Rehan stepped forward. But you did live. And now they don't control your story anymore. She looked away. I am the last, Rehan. The others in that bunker, they're not waking up. Their systems failed years ago. Rehan was quiet, then he held out the power cell. Then we make sure you survive. For them, for the truth. Ilara looked at the power cell, then at him. Why do you care so much? Rehan smiled faintly. Because humanity made this mess. Maybe I can fix a small part of it. She stepped closer. You're strange. For a human, he laughed softly. I get that a lot. They installed the power cell into the heater module. Warmth returned. The ship glowed softly again. Ilara sat beside him. She looked at the firelight on the floor, then whispered, You know, Rehan, they said humans were selfish, dangerous, cold. He looked at her. What do you say now? She turned to him. You're the warmest thing I've ever met. Outside, the snow began to clear. But far away, beyond the hills of ice, a signal tower blinked. Someone or something had received their heat signature, something that wasn't human. The ship was quiet. Only the soft hum of the heater filled the air. Captain Rehan leaned back against the metal wall, arms crossed. Ilara sat across from him, tracing patterns on the floor with her fingers. Warmth had returned, but peace had not. Both were thinking about the same thing, the bunker, the truth. The silence that had buried Ilara's people, Rehan spoke first. They never meant to come back for you. That's what hurts the most. Ilara looked up slowly. Not just me. All of us. We were left to vanish quietly, like we never mattered. Rehan didn't answer. He knew she was right. Somewhere in the galaxy, people in shiny uniforms were still writing lies in their reports. Suddenly, beep, 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 his wrist scanner lit up. Incoming signal. It's military, he muttered. Alara's body stiffened. Yours? He nodded slowly. Probably a recon team. Maybe they picked up the heat spike from the new power cell. She stood up fast. Then I have to hide. Rehan didn't stop. Her? He watched as she slipped into the shadows of the broken corridor. Only minutes later, a small ship hovered above the wreck site. Its legs dropped and locked onto the snow. A ramp lowered with a hiss. 2 soldiers stepped out, black armor, helmets with blue visors. Behind them, a woman followed, white coat, long scar down her jaw. Commander Vera Lane. Rehan stood tall. She smiled thinly. Captain Rehan, still alive. Impressive. He saluted, barely. She walked past him, eyes scanning the wreckage. We received your crash signal late. Ion storm scrambled our comms. But we're here now, ready to extract. He hesitated. And the mission? She turned. Still the same. Search for escaped experimental assets. If found, eliminate or retrieve, depending on threat level. Rehan didn't blink. You're talking about the Solarians. She smiled again, colder this time. Yes, one of them was spotted weeks ago on this planet. Dangerous species, mind-based abilities. Too unpredictable. He said nothing. She stepped closer, watching him carefully. You didn't see one, did you? A pause. Then he shook his head. No, just wreckage. No life signs beyond mine? She narrowed her eyes. You're sure? He nodded. She turned to the soldiers. Do a sweep. Scan for traces. Deep scan. They moved quickly, pulling out their devices. One soldier entered the corridor, the same one where Alara was hiding. Rehan's heart pounded. Don't move, Alara. Don't breathe. Vera walked beside him. You always were a bit too soft, Captain. He looked at her. I prefer the word human, she laughed lightly. That word doesn't mean much out here anymore. Just then, the soldier returned. No signs of life, Commander. Nothing organic beyond the captain, she sighed. Then it's either gone or dead. Either way, we're done here. She looked at Rehan. You've done well. Come with us. Debrief on the ship. We'll get you patched up. Rehan looked toward the corridor once more. Then he spoke slowly. Actually, I think I'll stay. There's a lot of data here. Flight logs, energy readings. If I can recover them, we might learn how the crash happened. Vera studied his face, always the curious one. He forced a small smile. I'll call for extraction in a few hours. She nodded, then turned toward her ship. The soldiers followed. In minutes they were gone, the shuttle rising back into the gray sky. Silence returned. Rehan waited until the sound of engines faded completely. Then he ran back into the corridor. Back to the shadow where Alara had vanished. She was still there, pressed against the wall, eyes wide. He knelt beside her. They're gone, she whispered. You lied. For me, he nodded. They would have taken you, or worse. She looked at him, confused. Why? Rehan stared at her for a long moment. Because I know what it feels like. To be treated like a tool, like your life is only data. She reached for his hand. You don't have to protect me. I can fight. He squeezed her fingers gently. I know. But you shouldn't have to, not alone. She looked away. Now they'll come back with more. Rehan stood. Then we need to leave before they do. Alara nodded slowly. There's a place, north of here. A deep cave system, old mining tunnels. I used them once, long ago. He helped her up. Then let's start walking. Outside, the snow had calmed, but the sky above was darker than before. Behind them, far in the distance, the small shuttle disappeared into the clouds, carrying lies back to command. And ahead, a long walk, a deeper truth, and a war not yet begun. Snow fell again. Slower this time, like ashes from a dying fire. Captain Rehan and Alara moved through the white silence, their footprints quickly swallowed by the cold behind them. They didn't speak. Every breath was a battle. Every step heavier than the last. They had been walking for 2 hours. The path was rough, small hills, broken ice, deep cracks hidden under soft snow. Ilara's strength was fading again. Her knees bent with every few steps, but she didn't stop. Rehan looked at her. "We can rest soon," he said, though he wasn't sure. She nodded, even though her lips were blue. They finally reached a steep slope. At the base was a dark opening, a natural cave, mouth wide like a sleeping beast. Rehan held her hand and guided her down carefully. Inside, the cave was silent and deep. The walls were smooth, shaped by time. Ancient mining tunnels, long abandoned, they walked deeper until the wind could no longer follow them. Rehan set his pack down. The heater module still worked, but barely. The new power cell was running low. Maybe 15 minutes of heat left. Maybe less. He lit the small flame. The fire was weak, but it was enough. Light flickered across the cave walls. Ilara sat close, arms around her legs. She didn't say it, but Rehan saw it. She was getting worse. He sat beside her. "We're safe here, for now." She looked at the flame. "It's beautiful. Small, but alive." He smiled softly. "Like you." She glanced at him, tired but amused. "Flames burn out, Rehan. So do people." He didn't like the sound of that. He reached into his pack, pulled out a ration bar, and offered it. "Eat. It'll help." She took it with shaking hands. As she ate, he stared at the flame again. Then she asked, "Do you remember your home?" The question surprised him. He paused. "Yeah, Earth, warm places. Blue sky, too many people, noise. I didn't appreciate it then." She closed her eyes. "I've never seen Earth. I wonder what it smells like. What trees feel like." Rehan swallowed hard. "Someday." "You will." She opened her eyes. "You don't have to lie to make me feel better?" He didn't answer. The silence returned, but this time it felt heavier. Then the heater blinked. 5% RE. Checked the scanner. "We have hours until the next ion wave. We need this heater to survive the night." Ilara shook her head. "No, you need it." Rehan looked at her sharply. "Ilara." She reached into her cloak and pulled out something, a small silver stone, smooth, pulsing faintly. "This is from my core. Every Silurian has one. It stores life energy." He stared. "What does it do?" She held it in her palm. "If I give it to you, it can recharge your heater for days." "But I won't survive without it." Rehan stood. "No, absolutely not." She didn't argue. She simply stared into the flame. "You saved me when you had nothing. You gave me your warmth. Now let me return it." Rehan knelt beside her, anger and sorrow in his voice. "That's not how this ends. You don't die to thank me." She looked up. "Calm, then tell me, how does it end?" He hesitated. "We both make it somehow, together." She smiled. Sadly, "You still believe in happy endings." He reached forward and took the stone from her hand, not to use it but to stop her. "We survive. That's our mission now." She was quiet for a moment, then she leaned against his shoulder. "Your warmth. It's not just heat, Rehan. It's something else, something rare." He didn't speak. She whispered, "No one ever held me like you did, not even my own people. You made me feel alive, even if just for a short time." Tears stung his eyes, but he blinked them away. The heater blinked again. 3%. He looked at the stone, glowing, silent, powerful, and deadly. If used, he had a choice. Use it and live alone, or let it stay where it belonged. He looked at Ilara, sleeping. Now, breathing softly, he wrapped his arms around her again. "Then I'll give you my warmth. Until my last breath." The fire flickered. And outside, hidden in the sky, something moved. A satellite, old, military, half-dead, had picked up a signal. Not just heat. Life. Asterisk. The cave was still. The fire had died. Captain Rehan didn't move. He sat in silence, holding Ilara close. Her head rested on his chest, her breathing slow, weak, fading. The heater had shut down an hour ago. Cold returned like a creeping ghost. Rehan's hands were stiff, his lips cracked. But he didn't care. His only focus was the warmth he could still give her. Even if it wasn't enough. Then a sharp ping echoed from his scanner, a signal, faint, nearby. He blinked through frozen lashes and looked at the screen. Unmanned rescue drone, 3 kilometers south, auto-routing, ETA, 1 hour. Hope flickered. He gently shook Ilara. Ilara, help is coming. She didn't respond. He checked her pulse. Faint. But the warmth he had given her had bought time, but not enough. He looked down at the silver, Silurian core in his pocket, still glowing, still full of life. He stared at it for a long time. 40 minutes passed. Rehan had wrapped every layer he had around Ilara. His own suit was now open at the front, chest bare to the cold. He was shaking, but her cheeks had regained a little color. He smiled weakly. Then he heard a humming sound, far away. The rescue drone. It came over the snowy ridge, shaped like a beetle, scanning the terrain. It hovered above the cave and slowly lowered a rescue pod into the entrance. The drone's voice crackled. Through Rehan's cum. One survivor detected. Prepare for evac. Rehan dragged himself up and pressed the emergency beacon. The pod door opened. He lifted Ilara gently, placing her inside. Her skin was warmer now, breathing steadier. Then the drone scanned him. Life signs critical. Hypothermia stage 3. 2 survivors detected. Evac sequence initiated. But the pod lights blinked red. Rehan frowned. A warning popped on the screen. Oxygen limit, 1 life form at safe capacity. He stared at it. One of them would survive the trip, not both. He sat beside Ilara. Looking at her sleeping face, she looked peaceful now, like someone who wasn't meant for pain anymore. He took out the core again. Its glow was stronger than ever. As if it knew the time had come, he held it in his hand, pressed it to the heater's input port. It fit perfectly, but he didn't push it in. He looked at Ilara again. He whispered, "This is your story now." Then, without another word, he stepped back. Sealing the pod, he reached into the control panel and set a command. Manual override. Launch with 1 passenger. The pod hissed and began to close. He pressed his forehead to the glass. "Thank you for reminding me what it means to be human." Inside the pod, Ilara stirred slightly. Too late, the pod launched, fire and snow flying behind it. Rehan stood alone, watching it disappear into the clouds. The cave was quiet again. He sat down slowly, back against the wall, breathing shaky. Hands numb, the silver core rested beside him, untouched. He had made his choice, and then a strange sound, a low hum, not machine, not wind. He looked up weakly, a glow, floating. The heater. Not the drone, Ilara's core. It pulsed brighter, rising on its own. Then it burst. Light filled the cave, wrapping around him. His skin warmed instantly. The frost melted from his fingers. His breath returned. The warmth wasn't heat. It was her, a memory. A final gift. A whisper echoed in the light. "You gave me your warmth, now I give you mine. Live, Rehan." Then darkness. He awoke hours later. Alive. Strong. The cave was brighter. Natural light. Now, morning. His scanner beeped. Another signal. Not a drone, a human ship. Real rescue. 10 minutes out, Rehan stood slowly. He looked down. The Silurian core was gone, burned out, its light spent. But its warmth lived in him. Forever. Meanwhile, far above the clouds, inside the rescue pod, Ilara woke with a sharp breath. She sat up fast, eyes glowing wide. She felt her chest, the core, gone. But something else beat inside her. Something human, a warmth that wasn't hers, but stayed. She looked out the pod window. The stars were ahead and behind them. The man who gave her everything. She whispered into the silence, "You chose me. Now I'll find you again, no matter what." The stars had changed. Ilara sat in the observation deck of the Alliance medical cruiser Seraph 5, wrapped in a simple gray robe. Her silver hair was no longer frozen. Her eyes, once cold and distant, now held fire, not from her powers, but from something else. Memory. She watched the stars move slowly, like a river of light. Behind her, the door opened with a soft hiss. A nurse stepped in. Human. She smiled gently. "You're recovering faster than anyone expected." Ilara nodded. "I was given a strong reason to live." The nurse paused. "About your friend, Captain Rehan." Ilara turned sharply. "Is he alive?" The nurse hesitated, then smiled. "Yes, we received him 2 hours after your arrival. Emergency scans showed his vitals were failing, but stabilizing fast. No one knows how. He's in recovery, sleeping." Ilara stood slowly, her heart or whatever Solarians had in place of one raced. Can I see him? The nurse hesitated again. He's in a secure area. There's political interest in both of you. After what happened, Ilara narrowed her eyes. Interest or fear? The nurse didn't answer. Just gestured toward the hallway. In a quiet chamber lined with medical lights. Rehan lay still, eyes closed. His skin looked better, breathing normal. But machines buzzed around him, watching, studying. Ilara entered silently. She walked up to him, stopping just beside the bed. She sat for a long time. She said nothing. Just watched him sleep. Then whispered, "You gave me your last breath, and still, here you are." His fingers moved slightly. She leaned closer. Then his eyes opened. Slowly, blinking at the light. Then locking onto her, he smiled. "You found me," she laughed, soft and bright. "You left me no choice." He looked around. "We made it?" She nodded. "We did. But they don't know what to do with us." He sighed. "That sounds about right." 2 days later, a council room, cold walls, bright lights, uniforms everywhere. High-ranking officers, scientists, one diplomat. And in the center, Rehan and Ilara, a commander, stood at the front. "Captain Rehan, you disobeyed direct orders. You protected a classified enemy asset. You destroyed a drone, lied to your superior, and risked your life." Rehan stood straight. "Yes, I did all of that." Murmurs in the room. The commander continued. "And why? What made you betray your mission?" Rehan didn't hesitate. Because she wasn't the enemy. She was the only one who remembered what mercy felt like. Eyes turned to Ilara. She didn't flinch. The commander looked between them. "So, what are we to do with you?" A scientist whispered something into his ear. He nodded. "We've scanned the Solarian. She no longer has a core. She's not a threat. For now, but she's still unknown, still alien." Rehan spoke again. "So am I after what I've seen?" The room fell quiet. "You buried her people," he said. "You called them unstable, dangerous, but she risked her life for mine. She gave me warmth when machines couldn't. That's not a weapon. That's a soul." More whispers. Then silence. Ilara stepped forward. "You don't have to trust me. But you can't keep pretending I don't exist." A diplomat leaned forward. "What do you want, Ilara?" She looked at Ariation. Then spoke clearly. "A home. A place where I don't have to hide. Where what he gave me can grow." The room waited. Then the commander said, "You will not be imprisoned. For now you are under protection, observed." Rehan smiled slightly. "Better than buried?" Weeks later, on a quiet moon station far from Earth, a small base was built, a research center, peaceful, open, with a garden that grew slow green things. Even in the cold, Ilara stood barefoot in the soil, her toes pressed into soft earth. For the first time, Rehan walked up behind her, carrying a cup of warm tea. "Still cold?" She smiled. "Not anymore." He handed her the cup. "You're becoming very human, you know." She looked at him. "And you're more Solarian than you realize." They both laughed, then looked up. Stars above. Quiet below. No war. No walls. Just warmth. Asterisk. They called her a weapon. I called her a person. They called me a traitor. But she called me by name. I gave her my warmth. She gave me her light. And together we changed the meaning of survival. Not just for us, but for anyone who still believes that being human means more than just being born on Earth.